Thank you very much for being with us. We start with the situation in Ukraine, and it is a distressing development this Monday. Russia firing missiles at cities across the country in broad daylight. At least 36 civilians were killed, and Kyiv's main children's hospital has been badly damaged. Now, we can say that in total in the Kyiv region, 22 people lost their lives, and of course the damage at the children's hospital is extensive. This hit today across Ukraine was part of a wide-ranging attack on the country. Russia, of course, has been stepping up its attacks in places such as Kyiv, the region in the northeast near to the border. But this time, a whole sequence of missiles was fired across the country, very much part of Russia upping the pressure. Why did this happen now? Hopefully we'll be getting that or insight on that from our guest who'll be joining us very shortly. But whilst we're waiting for that, let me tell you a bit more about the issues that have affected that hospital. It's Akhmadidyt, the hospital concerned. It is well renowned worldwide, according to Volodymyr Zelensky, as a place where children who are sick are made better. Let's take a look at our report.
Volunteers clearing the rubble, searching for survivors after a devastating Russian missile attack killed dozens across the country, striking residential buildings and a children's hospital.
My daughter started screaming. I ran into the ward. We were told to go down into the basement. I grabbed my daughter in the corridor and there was a second explosion. I could not think that such a thing could happen, that there could be attacks on a hospital with sick children. It's difficult to describe in words.
The intensive care unit, operating theatres and oncology departments of the Akhmadidyt Children's Hospital were all damaged, and it was forced to shut down. Volodymyr Zelensky pledged a firm response.
I'd like to hear from our partners a greater resilience and a stronger response to the blow that Russia has once again delivered on our population, on our lands and on our children.
The daytime barrage targeted 5 Ukrainian cities with more than 40 missiles, and the Kinsal hypersonic missiles used in the attack are among the most advanced Russian weapons, flying at 10 times the speed of sound, making them difficult to intercept. Western leaders who have backed Ukraine in the war are holding a 3-day NATO summit in Washington, starting on Tuesday.
That was Tom Canetti with that report. Let's bring in Peter Zalmayev from the Eurasian Democracy Initiative. Peter joining us live from Kyiv. Peter, thanks for joining us. And can I start by giving you our sympathies, especially with the people affected in this strike on the Children's Hospital, which is something I think which will resonate with people around the world when they hear a children's hospital has been struck by missiles in this way. Can you give us a sense of what is happening there now? Clearly, the mood must be one of devastation and anger, I imagine.
As I was rushing to the studios, for this interview, in fact, another siren, another air raid just rang out to the tune of probably 4 or 5 today. It's been quite a while since the enemy struck on the capital. But once again, the pattern has been quite clear over the last 3 years, in light of the big NATO summit coming up, starting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, in Washington, which will be the 75th 75th year celebration of it. Vladimir Putin is sending an unmistakable signal that he has not stood down. He, remains fixed on the idea of Ukraine capitulating, controlling the country. Nothing will sway him otherwise. As you saw, the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was here in Kyiv, then he visited Moscow. He's visiting with Xi Jinping in Beijing today. Even he, being a close and very faithful friend of Vladimir Putin, came away from Moscow empty-handed.
And Orban, when he came to visit Ukraine, which message was he bringing with him, do you think? A message from the EU or a message from Putin?
Well, as was evidenced by the subsequent speeches and statements by Western leaders, no one really wanted Orban to go. He was not really approved at the highest level, so he was traveling there in pretty much his private capacity. It was the capacity of a prime minister of Hungary. He didn't hear anything new in Moscow, and he didn't provide any constructive suggestions to Kyiv. As a matter of fact, you can make an argument he was, carrying water for Xi Jinping himself. Viktor Orban is sitting tight and pretty, hoping to continue receiving subsidies from Brussels and also attracting investments from China. We in Ukraine do not see Viktor Orban as an honest, interlocutor and an honest broker. He's definitely a very, dangerous player. I think we see him as a Trojan horse within the European community.
And Peter, Volodymyr Zelensky will be going to NATO and asking for the things that he's been asking for since February 2022. Again, it's more missiles, it's better air defences, it's the chance to strike back. What do you want NATO to do and say? What do you want the EU to do and say? What more can they provide? Give us a sense of what you need.
Well, coming back to the same old topic we've discussed, over the last 3 years on this program, what we would want to hear is for NATO to say, Ukraine, become part of us, come into NATO, welcome. It's not going to happen. The formula remains the same. We're stuck in the same old formula. No NATO membership unless Ukraine and until Ukraine finishes this war. It is a way to encourage Putin to continue waging this war because his rationale, at least the one he provided to the world, is to prevent NATO from expanding to Ukraine. So short of that, we definitely want a strengthening of the air defense systems. Zelensky has said if we get 8 to 9, it could cover pretty much the entire country. And we definitely want the U.S. to lift the remaining objections to using the ATACMS missiles so Ukraine can answer Russia symmetrically and to try to take out all these capabilities deep inside Russia's territory. Because Russia continues to enjoy superiority in the air, we also need those F-16s as fast as possible.
Do you take heart in the fact here in Peter there's been an election in France? The far right was tipped to win. The far right, of course, only today has banded up with Viktor Orban to form the Patriots of Europe group in the European Union. Do you take heart from the fact here in France that the far right has been basically pushed aside by the electors? They've actually backed a left-wing coalition. It's not as straightforward as that, but there's been this move towards the left. Does this leave you with any sense of optimism about what France is about and how France's support for Ukraine will continue?
I understand that the confusion that President Macron wanted to clear has only thickened. I follow the news. I know it's a very complicated situation in France, but we do take heart from the fact that the right-wing coalition, the leader of which said that we will definitely withdraw the permission for Ukraine to use our weapons, our missiles to hit on deep inside Russia's territory. That coalition didn't, pass the threshold. And so we are encouraged that, the worst case scenario didn't pan out.
Peter Zalmayev, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, even though the circumstances are, of course, very difficult. Thank you, sir, for joining us. You always provide us with great insight, and we appreciate your time, sir. Do be careful. Thank you very much indeed. Peter Zalmayev of the Eurasian Democracy Initiative joining us live from Kyiv. Thank you very much indeed. We continue to watch, of course, for all developments on the situation regarding Ukraine.